This dimension looks at what a society rewards. What does success actually mean? Is it about winning, achieving and standing out? Or is it more about balance, cooperation and quality of life? The original Hofstadter term was masculinity versus femininity. But today many people prefer terms like achievement versus quality of life, because this dimension is not really about gender. It's about values. In more achievement-oriented cultures, performance matters strongly. People are encouraged to compete, to push themselves, and to show results. Success is visible. Ambition is admired. And in negotiation, this often creates a more competitive atmosphere. In more quality-of-life-oriented cultures, the focus is different. Balance matters, equality matters, well-being matters. Success is not measured only by performance or money, but also how people live. Work's important, but life outside work is protected too, and these differences shape negotiation behaviour more than people often realise. In achievement-oriented cultures, negotiations may feel sharper. People state positions clearly, targets are pushed harder. There's often greater acceptance of confrontation, pressure and competitive tactics. A strong negotiator is expected to be confident, decisive and ambitious. In quality-of-life-oriented cultures, the atmosphere is often calmer. There's more emphasis on dialogue, fairness and maintaining balance. The goal is not simply to win, but to reach an agreement that people can live with. And this affects expectations at the table. My mother-in-law once asked me, "Why do you always want to earn more money? Can't you just be happy with what you have?" I grew up in Thatcher-era Britain, where ambition, career progress and individual success were strongly encouraged and rewarded. She grew up in the former East Germany, where security, modesty and equality were viewed very differently. Neither perspective is right or wrong, but they reflect very different ideas of what success in life can look like. And those ideas don't just stay at home, they appear in negotiation too. In some business cultures, pushing strongly for maximum advantage is respected. It shows strength, competence and determination. In others, that same behaviour can damage trust very quickly, because negotiation is expected to remain balanced and constructive. I noticed something similar when working in Denmark. By 4:30 or 5 o'clock, many offices were almost empty, or in fact empty. Men picked up children from school. Family life was clearly protected. At first, coming from a more achievement-oriented culture, that can seem surprising. But at the same time, the Danish teams were highly professional, meetings were efficient, preparation was excellent, expectations were high. The culture wasn't less ambitious, it simply placed clearer boundaries around work. And that changes negotiation expectations too. In more quality-of-life-oriented cultures, late-night bargaining sessions or excessive pressure may actually reduce trust. Efficiency and balance are often seen as signs of professionalism. You can also see how this dimension in success is displayed. In some cultures, success is visible. Titles matter, big cars matter, long hours matter. Achievement is something people openly demonstrate. In other cultures, showing success too strongly can even create discomfort. Leaders are expected to appear modest, approachable and equal to others. In some Scandinavian environments, visibly separating yourself through status symbols may actually damage credibility. And again, this directly affects negotiation. Some negotiators want visible victories, public recognition, strong outcomes, clear signs of success. Others focus more on fairness, stability, and preserving relationships. And here's an important nuance. In countries like India or China, negotiations can initially feel very competitive. Strong positions, tough bargaining, heavy pressure on price. But underneath the longer-term goal is often harmony and sustainable cooperation. So what looks aggressive at first may actually sit inside very relationship-oriented strategy. Of course, no country sits completely at one extreme. There are tendencies, not fixed categories, and most cultures contain elements of both. Some societies lean more strongly towards achievement and competition. Countries like Japan or the US are often placed towards that end of the scale. Performance, success and recognition tend to carry strong social value. At the other end, countries like Sweden, Denmark or the Netherlands tend to place greater emphasis on equality, consensus and quality of life. Success matters there too, but it's often expressed more modestly. And then there are many countries somewhere in the middle. Germany is an interesting example. There's a strong respect for performance, quality and achievement, but also a growing emphasis on balance, security and private life. The UK often sits somewhere similar, competitive in some environments, but increasingly questioning pure live-to-work culture. And even within one country, the picture can vary enormously. Different industries, generations and organisations may behave very differently. A startup culture in Berlin may feel completely different from a traditional manufacturing company. And a global tech company in Stockholm may negotiate very differently from a family-owned business in the same city. And that's why these dimensions should never be treated as stereotypes. They are patterns, signals, starting points for understanding, not final judgments. So, what should you look for in a negotiation? Well, in more achievement-oriented cultures, you'll often see strong opening positions, clear performance targets, comfort with competition, more direct confrontation, recognition for individual success, and greater status visibility. In more quality of life oriented cultures, you're more likely to see consensus building, careful handling of disagreement, attention to fairness, more balanced discussions, less visible ego competition, and stronger work-life boundaries. So what does all this mean for you as a negotiator? Well, if you come from a more achievement-oriented culture, don't mistake calmness for weakness. And don't assume that less confrontation means less ambition. Avoid turning every negotiation into a win-lose situation. And remember, long-term trust is often more valuable than a symbolic victory. If you come from a more quality of life oriented culture, don't be intimidated by strong opening positions. Competitive behaviour is often simply part of the process, not a personal attack. Be prepared to defend your interests clearly and make expectations explicit early on. Achievement and quality of life are not opposites. They're different ways of defining success. Achievement and quality of life are not opposites. They are different ways of defining success. And once you understand that, you can adapt your style and negotiate more effectively.